welcome back to another Sunday Classics Bake-Along, and today we're going to be baking a really tasty spiced ginger bundt cake. But before we start, just thank you to everyone who joined us a couple of weeks ago for the lemon drizzle cake. I really loved seeing your bakes. I think you guys did a fantastic job. I saw all your pics on Instagram, so well done. If you haven't checked out this week's Instagram post with the shopping list and you haven't got all your bits and pieces ready, then just pause this video now and nip to the shops and get everything ready. Otherwise, let's get cracking. So, bundt cake. What is a bundt cake and what makes a cake a bundt cake? Well, it's the tin. This is a bundt tin. This is my bundt tin. Maybe very different to your bundt tin because there are so many different kinds you can get. Some of them are really simple. They're just a tin with a hole in the middle and just a simple shape. Some of them are like this, the spiral, and others are complete like cityscapes with loads of complicated bits and points and widgets. So you've probably found in your search for bundt tins, it's quite a difficult decision to make. I like to keep it really simple, especially if it's not for like an occasion, it's just for sort of any Sunday. But it's a tin, and they usually come in similar sizes, so don't worry too much about what size bundt tin you're going to need because they're usually pretty much the same, and it's all about how much batter you put in it anyway. So I'm also just going to run through what equipment you need as well for this recipe. So we've got a big mixing bowl and a sieve, a pastry brush, a fine grater for the ginger, a spatula. I've actually got two kinds of spatulas, a little whisk and a teaspoon, and I've also got my big freestanding mixer. If you don't have one of these, then you can use just an electric whisk or just a wooden spoon and your muscles. So we're going to start by creaming the butter and the sugar together. I've got 250 grams of soft unsalted butter here. Some people ask me how to get their butter soft. Because room temperature isn't enough sometimes. I like to leave mine just near a radiator if it's a little bit on the chilly side, just for a couple of hours to get it squeezably soft. And I've got 220 grams of soft brown sugar. And soft brown sugar as well, if you can't get hold of that easily, I actually did a video with my team about how to make your own brown sugar. So go and check that out. It's on the Tuesday tips. I'll put it in the description box below. And for now, we just need to beat this together for about 5 minutes until it's pale and fluffy. So while that's beating, I just need to say that some of your lemon drizzle cakes from last time were just so brilliant and really, really beautiful. They all turned out really well. Some in particular that I liked on Instagram were Jill Gear, Zombie Bakes, Shelley's Desserts, I Gotcha, and Emily Spice, all of whom took really beautiful pictures and posted them over on Instagram. So go and check out their accounts. Also, just if you're baking now, just take pictures of what you're doing, put it on Instagram using the hashtag Cupcake Jemma Bake, so you can all kind of get involved, make friends, and that way I can also see what you're doing. So how to prepare your bundt tin. Now obviously it needs to be greased liberally. I'm going to be doing that with just melted butter and a pastry brush, just really, really simple. But you can use like a spray grease if you want. It's really important because some of these tins are really intricate and kind of loads of like little dips and peaks and troughs. You want to make sure you get every single little bit of it liberally so it doesn't stick. Okay, so that is liberally greased now, and this is coming along nicely. So now we can get on with the next bit, which is to mix the golden syrup in with a large egg. So I've got 345 grams of golden syrup and a large egg. As usual, I always use large free-range eggs. And I'm going to be using my little whisk here, so hopefully you can use a little fork if you haven't got a little whisk, but I like to have these. They're really, really useful. So just mix that in until it's all kind of really well combined. So hopefully it goes without saying that your oven should be on already. Set it to 170 degrees C so that it's nice and hot for when your cake is ready to go in. And this is, like, golden syrup is absolutely one of my favorite ingredients to work with, just because it has a very unique flavor. And I get asked a lot, what can I use instead of golden syrup? I would say if you're in somewhere where corn syrup is a thing, dark corn syrup's probably your best bet. Things like maple syrup are probably a little bit thin. Honey you could get away with, like a runny, thick runny honey, but you will also affect the flavor because honey's obviously got quite a strong flavor. What else could you use? I mean, golden syrup really is where it's at, guys. So if you can get hold of it, probably like online will sell it if you're not in England. But yeah, it's one of those ingredients, it can't really be completely replaced. So once you've mixed it in really well with your egg, you can then just slow your machine down to a minimum speed and just slowly pour in that mixture. So with all of that in, we can get on with the next bit. Just turn this up a little bit to help it beat through. And we're going to mix our dry ingredients together. So I've got my big bowl with a sieve. We're going to put 470 grams of plain flour, otherwise known as all-purpose flour, for anyone who's wondering. I've also got 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 2 tablespoons of ground dried ginger, a teaspoon each of bicarbonate of soda and baking powder, which are different in case you're wondering, and half a teaspoon of salt. And then just whiffle that through the sieve. And then lastly, to really boost that gingery flavour and make this really kind of spicy and yummy, let's add some fresh ginger. So I'm going to be using 45 grams. I've already peeled some, but I've got a top tip for you guys about how to peel ginger so you don't waste loads, and that is to use a teaspoon and you kind of just scrape off the skin. And then we're going to grate this with a fine grater. I'm just using one of these microplanes, but like a fine cheese grater will do. And I like to do my grating directly into the bowl. That way I don't lose any kind of essential oils or essential juices from whatever I'm grating. Same rule applies usually to when I zest lemons and things like that. I like to do it directly into the bowl. Yeah. What are you guys doing today anyway, apart from baking? And who is going to be the recipient of this lovely bundt cake? Because surely you're not going to eat it all by yourself. I mean, I've tried it many times. I am actually going to give this one to my neighbour who lives opposite, because he asked me what I was up to today, and I told him I was making a bundt cake, and he got very excited. So that is what I'm going to be doing with my bundt cake. What are you going to be doing with yours? Let me know in the comments box below. So now just give that a little mix with a spatula or a whisk just to make sure that all the ginger is nicely incorporated in the dry ingredients. And now we can add this to our mixture, but we're going to alternate it with some buttermilk. And I've got 250 grams of buttermilk. I'm just going to turn that down so it doesn't fly in my face. So we're going to alternate a spoon at a time. So I'll probably do like 3 rounds of dry and 2 rounds of buttermilk. And if you're not using a freestanding mixer or anything, then just fold that in with like a spatula or a big metal spoon. And now for the buttermilk. Now, if you find it difficult to find buttermilk, then you can actually kind of make a version of it yourself. We've done a little Tuesday tips video this week, so go and check that out. It's a little buttermilk hack for you. Oh, I'm making a right old mess. And obviously, once the last ingredient's well mixed in, you can then put a bit of the next one in. And just keep doing that until you've run out, but always try and end on the dry ingredients. So if you've ever made a bundt cake before, maybe a different flavour, let me know what your favourite bundt is. Or if you've got any ideas for other classic Sunday bake-alongs that you would like to see, then please do put them in the comments box below, because I will do my best to do them. So my last little bit of drying is going in. And then once this is all combined, which doesn't take that long, we can switch that off and get it into the tin. Now obviously make sure you give your bowl a good scrape, just to make sure that there are no sneaky little nuggets of any mixture, any pockets of flour or anything like that. And with the tin, obviously, yeah, like most bundt tins are similar in size, but occasionally you might find slightly bigger ones. The rule of thumb, I would say, is to fill the tin 2/3 or 3/4 full, no matter what size of the tin it is. And if that means that you have some leftover batter, then it's better to have leftover batter than to have an overflowing bundt, because you want it to come out of the tin nice and neat. So, with your lovely liberally greased bundt tin ready to go, start dolloping it in. So just use your spatula to level it off a little bit. That way also you can see how much batter you've got in your tin a bit better when it's not piled up at high. And if you feel like you've got a bit too much, I would take some out. Because like I said, if it's overflowed, it can be not only quite difficult to get out of the tin, but it just makes the whole bundt cake look really ugly. And if you have leftover batter, I've got a little bit here, then my advice is to put it into cupcake cases and just have little cupcakes, because then you can have a little nibble and no one has to know about it, which is obviously brilliant. So now we need to bake this at 170 degrees C. Obviously our ovens are nicely preheated, so let's get it in there. So we're baking that for 45 to 50 minutes. Yep, that's working. And while it's in the oven, we can make the caramel sauce, which is going to be drizzled all over, because bundt cakes are usually decorated really simply, either with a glaze or something like that. I thought it'd be nice and complementing the gingerness by doing a really lovely, just a caramel drizzle. And this is based on my wet caramel recipe. I recently did a caramel masterclass, which has lots of different caramel recipes in it, and this is the wet one. So go and check that out for a real in-depth detail on how to make caramel. You're gonna need a big saucepan. You're gonna also need a little whisk and a wooden spoon ready to go. We're also gonna get some ingredients ready so that we don't have to panic at the end, because caramel is very hot. You don't wanna mess about at the end, panicking about where my bits and bobs are. So, I've got 245 grams or milliliters of double cream, and to that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of good quality vanilla extract. If you wanted, you could use a fresh vanilla pod, why not? Just give that a little mix around. Talking a lot about Little Mix at the moment. They're not my favourite band, but if you like them, let me know in the comments box below. So that's ready, so I don't have to worry about that. Make sure you're using a saucepan that's going to handle a bit of bubbling up, because you don't want it to be overflowing in the panic with lots of very, very hot caramel. And I'm going to start by doing the sugar and the water. So we have 220 grams of caster sugar, and then add 120 milliliters of water, and just kind of swill it about to make sure that all the sugar is kind of absorbing the water. Because with wet caramel, you don't want to stir it once it's on the heat, because that can cause crystallization. So for now, you want to put that onto a medium heat. And it's going to take a little while to do anything at all, so, you know, chillax. What you're looking for though is once it starts to sort of bubble and the sugar starts to dissolve, eventually it will turn a lovely light amber colour. We're going to take it a little bit darker than that to a sort of golden amber. So pause your video now, because everyone's caramel is going to take a slightly different amount of time depending on your pan, for example. So pause your video now and come back to me when your sugar syrup is starting to turn a lovely light amber colour. So I've taken it to a lovely rich amber colour, and it's very, very hot at this point. So it's now time to put the cream in. So we've already mixed the vanilla in, and be careful, but do a little bit at a time and then stir it in, because it steams up a lot. And sometimes if you dump all the cream in at once, it can seize up, and you don't want that. So just a little bit at a time. And with the cream, you can use single cream. In Britain, we have cream called single cream, whipping cream, and double cream. And double cream is the fattiest of them all. So for the richest caramel, you want to find a cream that's got the highest fat content, normally over 30%. In America, I believe it's called heavy cream, not hairy cream. But you can make a caramel with single cream if you like. It just won't be quite as rich, and it'll be a little bit thinner. That is looking real good. Now don't forget, this is super hot, so don't stick your finger in at this point. You're going to have a little bit of patience. We're going to let that cool. The cake has another 15 minutes on the clock, so I'm going to let that bake, obviously. You want to test it with a skewer. If the skewer comes out clean, then it is ready. If it doesn't come out clean, just whack it in the oven again for another 2 or 3 minutes at a time until it does come out clean. And I want you to pause this video and come back when your cake is out of the oven and it is cooled down for 10 minutes. Welcome back. My kitchen is smelling amazing. So hopefully yours is as well. This cake is going to be really tasty. Now we've left it to cool for 10 or 15 minutes because you want to turn it out when it's still warm. Ideally not immediately when it comes out of the oven because it'll still be quite fragile. It needs a little time to sort of settle in and rest if you like. But equally you don't want to try turning it out when it's completely cool because that will have a danger of sticking even more. So it's still a little bit hot to handle barehanded. So I've got my Cupcake Jemma oven gloves here. You can obviously use your very own oven gloves if you have your Cupcake Jemma ones. I am putting it onto a nice cake stand here. So we'll put it on like this and then flip it around somehow. Yep. Oh gosh, dangers, dangers. Now give it a little pat about and then hopefully it should just slide on out. I can't do it with these oven gloves on. I need to get my mitts in here. Hang on, my actual mitts. There is not a single bit of sticking in there, so I obviously greased my tin liberally and sufficiently. So this is looking like an absolutely beautiful cake. That's the beauty of Bundt cakes. They're already really awesome looking just because of the tin that you used. But things are going to get a lot more exciting now because we're going to drizzle our lovely caramel sauce on top. Now obviously we've made quite a lot of caramel, so I would say don't pour it all on because that way you can save some back for serving with a bit of extra caramel, or you could just keep it for another time. You could pour it over ice cream or something, but this is ready to investigate with the mouth now. So I'm going to chop myself a little slice. And that is the finished cake, and I think you'll agree that is looking pretty good. It's really moist and fluffy and yummy. And I like to eat this particular Bundt cake slightly warm because it kind of tastes a bit like sticky toffee pudding, which is like one of my favorite desserts of all time. So if you have baked along with us today, please let us know by putting the hashtag Cupcake Jemma Bakes on your Instagram posts so that I can see everything that you've been up to and see how your cakes turned out. And also, you know, it's a little community of you guys. You can maybe make friends with each other. What else do I need to tell you? In a couple of weeks' time, there's going to be another classic Bakealong, and this one is going to be for a hummingbird cake, which is a really tasty cake. So make sure you tune in for that and check out the shopping list, which I'll post on the Tuesday before. And I'll be back at the regular time on Thursday at 6:30. And this one is going to be something you guys have all been asking for a long time. So I'm sorry it's taken so long, but I'm going to show you how to do a perfect drip cake. So make sure you tune in for that. Meanwhile, you've got a lot of cake to eat, so see you later. I need more caramel. It's all mine.